in the NBC4i streaming center. About 20 word came down that the 2020 fall football season for the Big Ten will be postponed until spring. Big Ten presidents voted on that this afternoon. We just got word into the newsroom. Justin Holbrook is joining me right now, our digital sports reporter. Justin, what can you tell us?
Yeah, so obviously this has been something that's kind of been boiling up right over the weekend. We heard that there were rumors about this happening and a vote was going to come and then it wasn't going to come. And that kind of gave time on social media for coaches like Ryan Day, players like Justin Fields to express their opinion. And they said they wanted a season and it's not going to happen, at least not in the fall. It's been postponed. The Big Ten Conference announcing it about, like you said, 20, 30 minutes ago. So obviously big news coming in today and a lot of ramifications coming from this.
Yeah, talk about those ramifications. It's not just the fact that there aren't going to be football Saturdays here in Columbus. I mean, it's recruiting, it's transfers. We've talked about the economic repercussions. That's kind of obvious for the city. But can you talk about, as far as sports go, talk about recruiting and what this means to the Big Ten in general and Big Ten football and Ohio State football?
I mean, it's going to be hard to know what it's going to be in the long run, right? Recruiting, you might have conferences like the SEC if they decide to play, or conferences like the Big 12 if they decide to play, say, hey, we care about football enough to continue our season. I don't know what they're doing up north in the Big 10, but we still will play football no matter what. So maybe we'll see ramifications about that. We've seen today already a 4-star recruit out of Florida from the IMG Academy said, I'm going to hold off on committing to Ohio State. He committed and now he's decommitted. We don't know if that has anything to do with the Big Ten Conference deciding to postpone. He actually announced that maybe about an hour before this even happened. So we'll see what those look like in terms of 2021 recruits. Right now, Ohio State has 18 players. They're the top ranked class for 2021, but it could have an impact in years to come. And like you said, financial impacts. Places like Columbus, they have big economies, but you look at other schools like in Iowa and Nebraska, their economies are just based on football Saturdays. So they're going to feel it a lot harder, but teams like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, they're going to feel it where it hurts too, which is in recruiting and trying to get guys to come to school and saying, Big Ten football is where it's at.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So, talking about Nebraska, you mentioned them. Their coach yesterday, he was pretty staunch about saying we're going to play, and I mean, kind of Ryan Day hinted at that. Also, other coaches have tweeted that out as well. So Big Ten presidents, they canceled their season in the conference, but what can they do? Can they bounce around, join another conference? Like, what is that even possible?
I'm not even sure. This is
Right.
unprecedented. I mean, we've heard Scott Frost, you mentioned him, he's the coach of Nebraska, say, we'll go play anywhere. We'll go play. If the Big 12 wants us, we'll go play there. And I mean, think about it. Who wouldn't want Ohio State to be in their conference for a season? The SEC, I'm sure, would love to have them. The ACC would love to have them. Big 12. I mean, all of these teams that are the best, in the Big 10, like Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, these teams, if they want to find a home, I don't know if it's possible. We've never been in a situation like this before where one conference is canceled and the others continue to play their games. We've seen other conferences cancel, Ivy League, MAC, but those obviously aren't as big as the Big Ten.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see too if there's a fallout and the other conferences decide to fall in line, or if they say, okay, Big Ten, go ahead and do your own thing, and we're gonna do our own thing and still play the season.
Yeah. So Justin, what did the Big Ten's release say? I know it was very lengthy. Did they lay out a plan for what it's going to look like in the spring, or is that something else that we're going to have to take a look at in the future? I know I can see you pulling it up there for us so you can read it. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Well, before I do that, I want to pull it up real quick, but get a reaction from you as well. I mean, you went to Ohio State. What do you think is going to be reactions of kids, especially seniors that are coming into their senior year, and a big part of Ohio State and tradition is watching and being part of football games?
Well, talking on like a personal note, I remember when the whole the tattoo gate scandal went down, when the student newspaper, the Lantern, broke that story.
Right.
They the following year, when we had that interim coach Luke Fickle, and ended up losing to Michigan, wasn't that Ohio State team that you really got used to. It felt weird then, so I can't even imagine. And I believe that was my sophomore or junior year, perhaps. I'm trying to remember, but it felt weird then, so I can't imagine what it's going to feel like just not having a football season. I know that kind of felt like kind of like a meh football season whenever I was there, for lack
Right.
of a better term. But yeah, definitely weird for those students. And I know a lot of students, I was talking to Jared and Whitney about this yesterday. There are students who come to Ohio State not only for the great academics, but because they want
Mm,
that atmosphere of
right.
Big Ten football, of a huge school in a huge city, playing football every fall. But if the
Mm.
if we're gonna play football in the spring, I know the weather's gonna be a lot nicer. I'll tell you that. So I
Yeah,
guess I guess if we're looking on the bright side of things.
yeah, true. I guess going back to your point too, you asked me what was said, and this is from Morton Shapiro, the chair of the Big Ten Council of Presidents and Chancellors. He just said our primary responsibility is to make the best possible decisions in the interest of our students and faculty and staff. And I'm sure that they believe that, but we've also heard people concern their opinions about, like Trevor Lawrence saying, this is the best situation for guys to be in, is protected in a space with their own team
Lieutenant
where
Governor kind of
you
alluded
have.
to that.
Correct. Yeah, John Husted said the same thing where, you have access to tests. The best possible healthcare in a school is on the football team probably. So
Hmm.
you have guys that no longer have that option. And now we're going to have to wait and see if Ohio State still decides to do in-person classes. All indications point to yes. So these guys not playing football, but still going to class physically. So what do they do with their time now that they're not playing football? And they're also
They're
not
going to
going
be
to be
out with the
worried about.
general population.
Sure. And they're not going to be worried about protecting themselves because if they had contracted COVID-19 during football season, that means you can't play football. But if you contract it without a football season, they have no, there's no interest other than just
Yeah.
being healthy to stay healthy. And I think we'll see a lot of ramifications. We've talked about the recruiting, we've talked about losing money, but another part of it is, does this mean players will be healthier? I don't know. It decides what it depends on what players do with their own time, right?
Certainly. So those student athletes. I mean, there's a lot of NCAA rules about when practices can start, what those
Yeah.
practices can look like. So is the NCAA kind of gonna have to step in and kind of readjust their plan of what they can and cannot do? Are we? What does a fall practice even look like when there's a spring season? It's just so many
Yeah.
factors because it's normally just such a structured thing every year for the past 100 years. These practices
Yeah.
and seasons have looked like this, so it's
Yeah.
so many unanswered questions.
Well, the weird thing too is that how close we are to the football season. I mean, September 3rd was supposed to be the opener
It's supposed to be
against
my birthday
Illinois.
gift, Justin. It's supposed to be my
Yeah.
birthday gift.
I'm sorry. I mean, it was a less than a month away, and
Yeah.
this decision is coming out. It feels like how it did with March Madness, although the NCAA didn't have any control in this, but it felt
Hmm.
like how quickly it all happened. You heard about it over the weekend that this could happen, and then 2 days later, here we are, and it's happened. It's moved so quickly. But the fact that less than a week ago we were coming out with a new schedule
I
for,
was gonna say
all
we
right,
got the
Ohio.
new official schedule. What, one, two,
Yes.
three, 4, 5 days ago at this
Yeah.
point? So it's just kind of not happening. I'm just trying to count here. One, two, so three. It was like 3 weeks until the new season. 15,
Yep.
17 days would have
Yep.
been Ohio State playing on that Thursday, September 3rd, but not going to happen.
Yeah.
So much going on. We're going to be, tracking all of this. Justin, anything else that you would like to add? I know you haven't been able to talk sports in a while. I mean, I know it's not the news that we want to hear, but
No,
just
I
just
said
so
it.
much going on.
It's been a while since I put the shirt and the tie
I
on to
know
talk
you
about
said that.
sports. I think the last point to make is just, how does this going to affect players' mental health, right? We talk about this, and this has become a big point in how players are, juggling classes and how they're doing in their day-to-day lives. And now that we've presented a new situation where football is a safe haven for a lot of these guys. This is where they come to feel safe. This is where they come for camaraderie. Their friends are there. This is what they do for fun. And
Hmm.
now that's being taken away. They obviously don't have to worry about what's happening next because they know there's not going to be a season, but they also know that there's not going to be football and they're not going to have that space to go to and those guys to hang out with, at least in a football setting.
Hmm.
So anxiety, all of these things that, come with student athletes lives is going to be amplified because there is no longer that athlete portion, at least to play a season.
Well, I
Maybe
mean,
they're going to give them some access to weightlifting and being together in small settings. I don't know what that looks like,
right.
but you're going to have a lot of mental health concerns around this.
I mean, he also, Joe Burrow mentioned it yesterday. If he had not had that season that he had,
Yes.
arguably the most high profile player he was, I would certainly say,
Sure.
most high profile football player, Heisman Trophy winner, first overall draft pick. he wouldn't have had that opportunity. What round would
Right.
he have been drafted in
Who
if he
knows?
didn't have that championship season that he had with LSU?
Yeah, I mean, he really came onto the scene in this past year, and a lot of guys do that. I mean, Chase Young really stood out last year. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate and moved all the way up the boards to number two. Who knows where guys like that would have gone? Obviously, he would have gotten drafted, but it's the other guys, the ones that are on the fringe, maybe a sixth, seventh round pick, who aren't going to get to showcase their skills at least in the fall. But then you have the whole other thing where the NFL draft is still in the spring. So, do you have a season that bleeds into the NFL draft, and how does that work? Do guys decide to say,
And
you
then
know
who's
what,
going to be
Justin
playing in
Fields?
the playoffs and the championships? Are they going to opt out because their NFL season is so close?
Right, right.
Uh,
Like Justin Fields said, he wanted a season. He's obviously an NFL caliber quarterback. If they decide to play in the spring, and he says, you know what, the NFL draft is in the spring. I think
now,
I'm going to get my mind and body right for the NFL, and now I'm going to have to forego this last year at Ohio State. You're going to miss out on a lot of memories made both for him and for fans to watch a very talented Ohio State team, which was, last week ranked number 2 in the coaches poll behind Clemson.
man, it's going to be a long fall without football.
It will be. We'll see about high school sports as well.
Yeah, certainly. Did we learn anything new about that today during the governor's press conference? I was kind of preoccupied with Big Ten.
I didn't catch it. I mean, I think from all indications point to, we're going to try out this 6 game season and everybody gets to be in the playoffs if they choose to be and go from there. But I have to think Ohio State not playing football is going to convince some other schools not to play football as well.
All right, Justin, thank you so much. We are about 20 minutes
No
away from
problem.
first at 4. Jared, of course, will be heading up our coverage there. Sports director Jared Smalley will have more on that. And we will see you guys with more as the things develop and we learn more on NBC4i.com as well. We will see you later. Bye.